Did you know that nearly 30% of New Zealand's population wasn't even born there? Yet despite this steady wave of immigration, a surprising fact remains. Huge parts of New Zealand are still almost completely empty. Why is that? Why does a country famous for its breathtaking landscapes, mild climate, and political stability remain so sparsely populated? Stick around, because today we're diving into the unique reasons why much of New Zealand remains untouched wilderness, and how history, geography, and policy combine to shape the population map of this remote island nation. If you enjoy stories about world geography, history, and how countries evolve, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Let's jump right in. New Zealand is one of the most geographically isolated countries on Earth. Situated deep in the South Pacific, its closest neighbor, Australia, is about 2,000 kilometers away, across the vast Tasman Sea. This extreme isolation has always played a major role in New Zealand's population story. For most of human history, these islands were completely unknown to the rest of the world. It wasn't until Polynesian navigators, probably by chance, landed here sometime in the 13th century that the islands saw their first human inhabitants, the Maori. Compare that to places like Britain, Japan, or Java, which have been populated for tens of thousands of years. By the time Captain James Cook charted New Zealand's coastline in the late 1700s, the Maori had only been there for about 500 years. This late discovery meant that New Zealand had far less time to grow its population compared to other nations. When British colonization began in earnest during the 1800s, New Zealand was still home to fewer than 100,000 people. Why so empty? Today, New Zealand's population is about 5 million. But here's the catch. Over 75% of those people live on the North Island. So why is the South Island, despite being larger, mostly empty? The answer lies in the landscape. The South Island is dominated by the Southern Alps, a massive mountain range formed by the collision of the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates. These mountains run the length of the island, with peaks soaring over 3,700 meters, nearly as tall as Japan's Mount Fuji. This rugged terrain makes large-scale development difficult and expensive, and that's just the beginning of the problem. On the west coast, moist winds from the Tasman Sea crash into the mountains, dumping enormous amounts of rain, creating some of the wettest places in the southern hemisphere. Meanwhile, the east side of the mountains lies in a rain shadow. This area gets far less rainfall, which often leads to droughts, making farming harder and settlements fewer. In contrast, the North Island is warmer, less mountainous, and has richer volcanic soil in certain regions, supporting more agriculture and urban growth. That's why cities like Auckland and Wellington dominate New Zealand's population map today: immigration and modern growth. Despite the challenges, New Zealand has seen a steady flow of immigrants, especially in the last few decades. Back in the early 20th century, strict immigration policies favored Europeans, particularly people from Britain and Ireland. But after World War II, those restrictions gradually loosened. Today, New Zealand welcomes about 50,000 new immigrants per year. Between 2013 and 2018 alone, over 300,000 people moved to the country. But here's the catch. Most of these new arrivals settle in Auckland, New Zealand's largest city. Auckland now faces severe housing shortages and skyrocketing property prices. As of recent years, the average house in Auckland costs over $1 million, while the average salary remains far below that, making it one of the least affordable housing markets in the world. The reality of an empty land. So even though New Zealand is accepting more people than ever, the vast majority of the country remains sparsely populated. It's not because New Zealanders don't want to expand, it's because much of the land is simply too rugged, too wet, or too dry to support large populations. And despite its image as a peaceful paradise, this small nation is still grappling with major questions about housing, infrastructure, and sustainability. So next time you see stunning pictures of New Zealand's wild landscapes, remember, much of that beauty remains empty and untouched for a reason. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about our world's hidden history and geography. See you next time.